All right, you loyal listeners. Welcome to another episode here of Agency Intelligence. This is the executive sessions, and we are live here on the floor at Accelerate for Vertafore, NetView actually, but you know, we're all Vertafore users. What Cass likes to call the Big Orange. That's right. Pretty soon we're gonna walk in here and it's gonna say on the wall, the Big Orange, but I gotta get through the board first. And if you guys have noticed, I'm kind of interviewing a lot of the boards so that I can make my move towards the Big O. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. So anyways, hey guys, you know why I'm doing this. I'm doing the executive sessions. This is actually Keith Savino. Keith and I have known each other. We got to know each other when we were on the Ivans advisory board 2012-ish. And Keith has become somebody that I really look up to in the industry. And I'm excited to have you, man. I appreciate having Keith.
I'm happy to be here, Jason.
Keith, tell them who you are. Tell them about your agency. In 60 seconds, tell them who you are.
It's impossible to do it in 60 seconds.
I know.
36 years in the business, 5 agencies in, currently national cyber practice leader and managing partner at Trucordia. We're the 13th largest P&C agency in the country.
Wow.
But I've got a lot of past on the industry side. So that's probably more what you want to talk about.
I absolutely do. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the industry a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you and I know. We'll probably dip into a little bit of AI, but I want to make sure that I actually humanize you. Keith, whenever you and I first met, I was in a room and we were in Tampa at the starts with an O, the Opal, I think is what it was.
You have a good memory, that's correct.
And I remember thinking to myself, wow, there is somebody in this room that is just as outspoken as I, has absolute conviction in what he's saying, doesn't want other people to think they're stupid, but at the same time doesn't necessarily, they're not seeing things the way I'm seeing things. That's what I got from you. And I was like, wow, this is really impressive. And then we went to dinner that night. We ate outside. Reed French ate outside with us. And I really got to know you, and I realized like you were the real deal. And I'm being serious when I say that, because I wouldn't say that I see you as a mentor.
Very kind.
I wouldn't say I see you as a mentor, but for being in the insurance industry and talking specifically about the things that I talk about with technology and other things, you're definitely someone I see as a mentor. That's why during the first Indie Tech, I wanted you to be a speaker, you know? So shit moved so slow for so long, Keith. And now it's moving so damn fast. You were here when this baby was crawling, okay? And now you're here where it's on a stick. Am I wrong by that? What does the last 20, 30 years look like?
Actually, I compare the insurance industry to a baseball game.
Okay.
If you're outside baseball and you don't really know how baseball works, you might think it's the slowest moving game you've ever watched. There's no clock. The insurance industry, there's no clock. But if you're in the game, if you play baseball, if you're a catcher, the game's moving at 200 miles an hour. If you play chess, the game is moving at 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
Because when you're in the game, when you know what you're doing inside baseball, you realize that every batter, every at-bat is unique. You realize that if you're a catcher, you're looking up at that batter, you're seeing where his feet are, you're understanding what his prior at-bats were, you're looking at the runners who are on base. The game can change instantly depending upon where someone's located. You can determine what kind of pitcher you have on the hill, what kind of pitches he has in his roster, and you're looking at all of that, and it's moving fast for people who are in the game. And that first pitch ball, second pitch ball, third pitch, it's really changing fast. Your mind has to race and determine what you're going to do next. But to the person in the stand who's BSing with the person next to them, half watching the game,
wow,
eating a hot dog,
wow,
drinking a beer, it's not moving fast. So what I would tell you is if you're engaged in the industry, it's moving at 200 miles an hour. If you're not engaged in the industry, you think it's moving slow. So, you know,
that's profound, bro.
We hosted an Augie meeting yesterday. I have to tell you, we asked people what they remembered most about it. And the people who were in that meeting, I tend to say, are technically usually the very engaged, the best, the brightest, and the people who want to affect change. Mm-hmm. They also want to collaborate. They understand that community, collaboration, and consensus is what drives the industry. So when I look back at what was accomplished years ago when I was on the Accord board, I chaired standards for a while in the industry as well. We moved a lot of things forward. The community, whether I was sitting with, at the time, Reed French at Applied, or with Amy Zupon at Vertifor, or
name them.
Any of them, all of them, right?
You
and
well.
Menzies, or Robin Rayner, or any of the folks who were involved at various times. You just realize we're all fighting the same battles, trying to get to the end result. So I don't focus on the individual items, I focus on the mission. So if the mission was to keep independent agents relevant, to help independent agents provide a good customer experience, to help independent agents be successful and grow, I could argue that independent agents today are bigger and more successful than they were 25 years ago. That most independent agents today embrace technology more than they did 25 years ago.
Okay.
There's still a trade exhibit like this and others that are basically second to none. There are more vendors in the business than there were 25 years ago. So I would actually argue the inside baseball perspective on this, we've actually been moving at 200 miles an hour for the past 25 years.
I love it. I really absolutely love that. I'm telling you, Keith, that's monumental to me. I'm gonna write a blog on that. I really truly am. That's a very interesting way to look at how it's going. But yeah, and I got to be honest with you though, even to the person that's sitting in the stands right now, they may be wondering if this is even a baseball game because it's going fast. I got to tell you, this damn thing is going fast. And what I mean
now
by
we have attention. So now we have lots of people who are in the stands who look and go, I could play better than that person on the field right now. That's what we do have. Well, I can solve this problem, that they're facing, even though people didn't know there was a problem, right? And that adds to the conversation. It's healthy.
Keith, thank you. All right, Keith, you're from the New Jersey, right? New Jersey?
Yeah,
okay.
How'd you guess that?
No, I know, but maybe everybody doesn't know. But anyways, that's a unique place, right?
It is.
The Northeast is a unique place of America. We all know that. I don't get to interview a lot of people that are like you in that environment. I get CEOs and they're from Denver or they're from wherever, but CEOs and high executives from the Northeast are different breed. In your life, you've had some mentors, you've had some leaders that you've had in your life, and you've ran into them, and they've sculpted you into who they are. In your head, picture one, and tell me why that was the one that came to your head as being somebody that means a lot to you.
I'm pretty blessed. There were a few.
Okay.
Early on, when I entered this business, I came from outside the business. I was in telephony, technology, and then I came into insurance.
Okay.
So I didn't know a lot about it. And also, I came from an industry where competitors didn't collaborate. Even when we sat in the same room, we had to, true story, when I was working with the firm, we had to network the scoreboards. So when you scored a run in one place, it showed up somewhere else, okay? So we worked with the baseball commissioner's office back then, and I had to sit in the room with all the competitors in the telephony industry to make that happen, because it varied around the country. That was about as close you came to collaboration. It was definitely frenemies, but in the insurance industry, the first two conferences I went to, man, I listened, I didn't talk to anybody, I was with my brother, I went home. And then I heard one guy speaking at a meeting, and I'm dating myself, this is when Redshaw was a thing, okay? And his name was Mike Bergstein.
Okay.
And Mike, he just seemed so altruistic when he was speaking. I was like blown away by it. Wait, hold on, like maybe I want to get to know this guy better. Fast forward, between like 88 and 95, by 95 I was working for Mike. So he had impressed me so much that I knew that I needed to align with him. Mm-hmm. And then Mike's friends, guys like Pete Wilson, and then the CEO of Accord, Greg Maciag, Marty Lebson, one of the partners there. My brother even used to say, if there's one guy I'm going to buy insurance from in this world, it's Marty Lebson. And others like Andy Fogarty, who was involved on the Accord board for a while, and John Leonard. And these are the folks who really became the mentors for me in the business. They were insurance carrier executives, they were insurance agents and brokers. And what I found is that they all kind of embraced a similar philosophy, which I know doesn't go with everybody else's philosophy. And I mentioned it yesterday. So there's a famous George. And so he had a quote, which I'm going to bastardize. I'm going to try to do the best I can with it.
Okay.
And he said, if you do something good for somebody else and more than two people know about it, you and the person you did it for, you might have done it for the wrong reasons. And so Sorry to use the
Interesting.
baseball analogy again. It was actually George Steinbrenner.
Oh, was
Not
it?
the George you think it was.
Okay, yeah.
And most people didn't realize until he had already passed how charitable he was. And he was okay with that. He was okay being despised by some people for doing, winning.
Yeah, for
right?
winning.
But it was amazing that, and what I find is that became a little bit, when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, I get that, because that was always the thinking. So
Wow.
I find myself being drawn to folks who have a similar philosophy, who are trying to help others win, because I think karma is real, and I think when you help others win, you do that. And I've been doing this 36 years, and last year our location, and we're one of the original OG shops, in the Trucordia world. I'm 7 years in. We were the #1 organic growth partnership out of 280 locations and 5,000 employees. And I don't credit that to, we did something really, really good. I credit, we did good things for good people.
I like that.
And that to me is what drives the entrepreneurial spirit. And that's what drives people to serve on boards, to be here volunteering. There's 1 million people running around with shirts on. There's Day of Caring yesterday. There's blood drives. These are good people trying to do good things in an industry that, let's face it, from a public perspective, doesn't see that.
It's true.
What everybody does. And so to me, my mentors, and it started with Mike, there were others there. I still will try to have breakfast with Mike, who's been retired for years, once a quarter.
Wow,
Yeah.
I had an agent a couple years ago. He was brand new, and he's doing really well. He said to me, if you could give me one piece of advice, he says that, just one, Jason, what would it be? And it came right out of my mouth real quick. I said, just put everybody else first.
Yep.
To him, that's got to sound just so corny. It sounds corny when it comes out of my mouth, but I also know in my brain, that's really what it is, right? Like, you just put everybody else first. What Zig says, get everybody what they want, you'll get everything you need, you know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And so that stuff just read through. So it sounds like that Mike was a lot of that.
Michael absolutely was. He was a servant leader before the term became in vogue. And many of us who embrace that philosophy also, now today, servant leader, there's a moniker you can place on that person.
Yeah.
Give them a badge.
Yeah.
But there were people who did that for years, and it wasn't popular, right? We had more of this traditional GM hierarchy for many, many years in organizations. I'll tell you, even in my current firm, we have a very servant leadership mentality. We have partners that are very empowered to succeed.
Wow.
We have an entrepreneurial mindset, and it has a family philosophy. Look, I got a CEO in Trucordia that plays guitar with rock bands, all right? This is not a normal place. I mean, in the past year, he's played with Joan Jett, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Foreigner.
Wow.
Okay, at our events. We enjoy ourselves at our events. And we want to reward that sort of interaction. Mm-hmm. That may not be as popular everywhere as it might be with us, but that's why I'm aligned with that thinking.
Wow. That's some cool stuff. That is, well, you kind of got me caught off guard there. Why, is it because of your background, was technology is what really drives you in this industry?
Yeah, maybe.
Why? Why would it be maybe?
Well, I walked into the office on day one. So I joined my brother, who had started his own agency about 3 years earlier. Okay. We were supposed to start together.
Okay.
Long story, it took me 3 extra years to
get
in.
In the 90s is this, or the 80s? What is this? What about it is
1988.
this? 1988, okay, all right.
So we were in a green screen world. Windows didn't exist. All right, and just think about that.
No, I can't.
When you got a color screen, you had color letters, right? That was a color monitor, and they weighed a ton. Yeah, there's lots of stories, but when I got involved, I walked in. I said to my brother, I go, "What do I do?" And he goes, "Well, there's these boxes. I bought this software system. They're sitting over there. You might want to unbox them." So how long ago you buy them? He goes, "About 8 or 9 months ago." So, okay. So first thing I was doing was slicing open boxes and installing a brand new Wang VS2200 microcomputer system.
Wow. Never even heard of that one.
If you'd like to, I probably still have it somewhere. I'm happy to try to boot it up, but the printer has to be plugged in order for it to boot up. So there's a lot of people who will know that, and the people in the industry who I was close with for years, like like Steve Aronson and Bill Hartnett and people like that, they all came from those worlds, right? And Barb Stevens and people like that were all part of that crew. And we all collaborated together and made it through the Windows stage of life, et cetera. And so, I mean, that's kind of how I started in the business. Because one of the first things I did was, hey, install this technology. I just did what everybody said you were supposed to do. I didn't talk to anybody else. And 2 years later, found out we were doing something called T-filing or transactional filing for large commercial accounts. We wrote street sewer and water contractors and crane operators in New York. I didn't know what it was like to be an agent.
I'm going to date you and I, for real quick. Keep what you have said. Tell the loyal listeners what T-filing is.
T-filing was, instead of filing by a client's name, you file by the transaction date. Yes. So really, when you think about it, it was the very early stage of front-end scanning or back-end scanning. That's really what it was.
Right.
And so we didn't know we were doing something good. Somebody in the company, Redshaw, called up and said, hey, we want to know if you're doing this. We said yes. And I'm like, isn't everyone? And called me back a few months later and go, well, actually, no, there's 2 people in the world who are doing it for us. And one was in upstate New York. His name was Ed Higgins, who you may know.
I know Ed.
Ed was a former chair of ACT and involved with me on the EBIX user group for a while. And then
and also
and
your
myself.
early person was Rick Morgan.
So Rick wrote an article about us in the TAR report.
Okay,
so that's really dating it.
Yes, okay. I remember Rick talking about that a long time ago, and he did a report on you guys.
Yes, so the article in the TAR report was about myself and my brother. At the time, our agency was RASK, R-A-S-K, our initials, International Risks.
Okay.
So you can look that up. And Ed Higgins was there. And we didn't know who started first until Ed and I ended up on a board together many years later, and we realized we actually started first. So it was like October of '88 or something like that.
T-filing.
For commercial accounts, for big commercial accounts.
So anybody who's new in the business, when we had these yellow filing manila envelopes, they would just, we'd get, a customer would call in, we'd answer it, and we'd stick it on top of the filing cabinet, and then somebody would have to come in and refile all those things.
Right.
And I guess it kind of got made to the thought was, I'm filing this and I may never have to use it again. Well, let's make it organized. When did they make the change? In October? Okay, well, let's go pull the October file and see where the change came in and then put that file back rather than going and getting the customer file.
It's transactional based. The original transactional systems, you can actually go to Rough Notes and you can go meet with Walt today and he would walk you through the back office and he'll show you how accounting worked with 5-part invoices and 1 part went to renewals and 1 part went to receivables, et cetera, right? And so the first automation systems were really based on accounting. Redshaw was one of the first to integrate the client file or the policy administration to it. Then they were one of the first to create an activity log. So what allowed you to T-file was having an unalterable index. Today we might call it a transaction log or activities. That unalterable index provided both E&O protection for agents as well as a way to find the document. So if I did something with you today, I didn't have to worry about trying to punch 2 holes in the top, put the metal things through. I mean, there were people who did nothing but that in agencies.
Right.
They literally got paid to do that.
Yes.
All day long. Right? Yeah. So basically, that was one of the first stages of, now we don't need that person anymore. We could save money. We can hire another account exec. So if we did T-filing, we could drive efficiency into it. Then when people moved to back-end scanning, they basically removed the T-filing with the back-end scanning. Then they moved to front-end scanning. So T-filing enabled agencies to evolve through the 90s. I
did not think of it evolving like that, Keith.
Yeah. It was an incremental journey to embrace the technology, because remember, people were moving from 100% manual process and typewriters when I came into the business. But I came from a very highly automated world.
Right.
So I came from a world where with telephony, it was automated. We, you had a dual tone phone and all sorts of, whatever. It didn't matter where it was, whether it was going over fiber or dual pair copper wire. And so that gave me my networking background, which gave me my ability to get involved during the .com boom on the revenue side of writing startups, technology companies, et cetera. And that really changed the world. I was a CIO of a large broker at that time, and none of the people who worked for us could take a phone call from a startup technology company and have any sort of a conversation with them. They had no idea what they were doing. But I had a
little background there.
I had networking background, Novell.
Let's talk about
Microsoft.
2025 to 2030, 2030 to 2050, 2050 and on. What's this look like to you?
I think you're going to see a lot of things change. AI, people are going to, they'll rush to it. in an irresponsible way initially, then they'll approach it in a responsible way. It's got to shake itself out. I actually count on a lot of folks in the insurance industry to add that dose of conservative thinking to that. Conservative thinking doesn't mean don't do. It means let's think about it and then do.
Okay.
Right?
Makes sense.
And so, you saw people initially going to take their information, content, data, and move it into an engine, as opposed to saying, wait a second, maybe I should bring the engine to me. And let me decide what the model is that I'm going to do. So people will have more and more clarity around that. That is going to change a lot in how people work.
Okay.
I think if you want to attract the 20 to 30-year-old youth into the industry and you want to have some attraction to it, we need to start thinking more in what attracts people in a mobile environment. We still live in a world where we think a lot of the people who work in this world are sitting in a chair staring at 3 screens. That's
true.
Very 2010. I think we need to think past that.
Yep.
So because I came from that Wang microcomputer world, moved through DOS, moved through Novell, moved through, before Microsoft even called it TCP/IP, it was NetBEUI. I mean, because I moved through those protocols, did the standards, etc., I could tell you there's plenty of wonderful things there. We should certainly use those things. But we don't have to have those things own us. Let's own those things. Let's bring forward on the get, keep, drop philosophy. What do we keep? What do we need to get? What are we getting rid of? And that will drive us towards the future on any of the technologies that we embrace. Not just, oh my God, that's really cool, I need to do it.
Wow.
Why do I need to do it? Why do I need to get that? Does it give me customer experience? Does it help me grow organically? Does it increase profitability? Does it provide a better world for our employees to work in, for our team to build together in? Well, if it checks those boxes, then yeah, we should do it. It shouldn't just be a cheaper way to do the same thing I was doing yesterday, because you may find yourself replacing that again.
That's right.
In this. And
Very
then
well said.
All the technology is nothing but bottles of water and whoever's got the cheapest gas price that week. But as an industry, we need to do better than that, if we can.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I definitely think data analytics is going to take on a new environment. To go back to the baseball analogy, folks like Billy Beane, who we just had speak at one of our events, I mean, he didn't invent data analytics in baseball. He read 3 other books, read other people who had never picked up a bat who were analyzing baseball and said, I think I should try this. I have no budget with the Oakland A's. I need to try this. And then hired a Harvard data analytics guy who also had never picked up a bat, or maybe he did a little bit, John Podesta. But Billy Beane and John Podesta changed the world. They convinced the world that it wasn't about some of the data analytics when recruiting people. They realized that the 9th item that they were proving important, the following year, which was on-base percentage, became the most important item you could recruit for in baseball.
Right.
So they looked at it a different way. Today, there's not a single major league team that doesn't look at data analytics when recruiting. They're approaching it differently. And I believe that the smartest insurance agencies are going to look at their data analytics in a way they have not looked at in the past 10 years. So if I look at the future, I see AI, data analytics, and really a commitment to continuing the success of the independent agency, combined with participating in the communities and collaboration for a consensus model, some of which we've missed in the past few years, but we will succeed better together. Mm-hmm. So a Zig Ziglar thing is you got to find the people, places, and things that will help make you successful. Because guess what? You're not doing it alone. That's
right. The people, places, and things. I remember that, actually. The thing that when we talk about the data, so right now it'll be out July 1st. Your name is one of the 100 people that's going to get this copy of this. I've been deep in the dungeon I've created Agency 2030. So I believe that, I know, Reagan looks back 3 to 5 years and they tell us today what those people have been doing roughly. Great organization. We need it.
Absolutely. You need lagging indicators.
But also to show what the agency looks like of 2030 so that we can build towards it. And I've developed 14 metrics that I believe we'll still use Reagan, but these will be things that we'll layer on top. And I'll give you an example. Why do we use revenue as employee, which we should have in the past, when the employees are not the one doing the work? You have VEs that are doing the work, you have managed VEs that are managing bots, and you have fully autonomous bots. You actually have 4 people who are actually doing the work in an office. So it's actually called a revenue per human layer. And when you layer your licensed people with your VE that manage bots, with your autonomous bots, you actually start to come up with a revenue per human layer cost. Another thing I call it SES, which is called the swing efficiency score. Whenever I try to increase my efficiency and I get more efficient, I'm not gonna fire my people. I'm gonna redeploy them into productivity. And so the difference between what I save in my efficiency and what I gain in my productivity is called a swing efficiency score. There will be AI utilization. What percentage of the tasks being done are being done by what layer? And then we will be able to utilize and say you have a 86 AI efficiency score. Agencies will now be able to, and I've created the formulas. Like you can run your P&L or your balance sheet and you can put in your net profit revenue plus or divided by your labor plus your VE cost plus your TAC, take that times 100 and you get an A score, AIES score. These are the things, I've invented 14 of them, and I believe that no one's talking about them, and I believe that when you just said what you said about the data analytics are gonna be different, I've been thinking that for a while, but I've been waiting for someone to create them. And then no one's gonna create them unless you create the agency to be able to measure that off of. And that's what Mitch and I have really done. And so I encourage, you'll get it about July 1st. I should be done around the end of June or beginning of June. But I'm going through it right now and analyzing it. I've got 14 new metrics. I can't tell you how important it is.
Yeah.
And I think that watching a young person, a young guy or girl who kind of understands ChatGPT and a little bit of data, I could show them this book and they'd go, oh yeah, well that makes total sense. They may not understand the insurance side yet, but they'd be able to easily look at these metrics. Now, if I showed them the revenue per employee or revenue spread or whatever it is, they'd be like, what the hell is that? But those metrics they do. And so I do agree with you on that. I look forward to you getting those metrics. So you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Congratulations, you're an insurance nerd.
Oh, I'm a huge insurance nerd.
You know?
I'm obsessed with it right now. I'm waking up at like 3:30 in the morning right now so I can get to work and write. I mean, I'm full blown into this right now, Keith. So when you said data analytics, I'm just like getting excited in my brain. Because
in order for people to get to that level, we need them to actually embrace the systems that they're using as their core systems today. I'll see people often talk about, well, do I keep my accounting in my policy admin system, or how am I tracking this, or I do my stuff outside in another system, or do I do it? And part of the challenge to that is they often have different versions of the same information, which now means that if you're trying to plug it into all of those models, because they're models, how does that work? I got to tell you, it's probably over 20 years ago now, actually going back to the 90s, I got involved in a lot of M&A work with one of the firms that I had sold a firm to. And he had a basic formula, and then someone else had a very similar formula afterwards. And it helps any agency. So if you're a 2-seat agency or a 200-seat agency or a 2,000-seat agency, if you take your P&L and you go down, if you take your chart of accounts and you go down every single one of the items in there, and you put an OP or an A next to it. Simple.
OP or an A. Okay.
Okay. Acquisition cost, payroll cost, operations expense.
Okay.
It's enlightening. So
it would make sense.
And then you should start with profit, not end with profit. So if you're beginning your year on January 1, you should say, how much profit do I want to make? And then you adjust your OP and A costs after that.
Gotcha.
Right? So, example, you say, I want to make 15% profit. So now typically you might say, okay, my payroll is going to be 25%, my operations is going to be 20%, my acquisition cost is going to be 40%. Now you have a starting point. I would encourage agencies, when they start off on Jan 1 or October, whenever they're doing their stuff, do they start with profit, or they look at profit as a bottom line item?
I look at it as a bottom line.
So when you're building out your model, you should start with what sort of profit do I need in the coming year to cover all those other expenses? Not, I'm going to let these other expenses run rampant, and then I'm going to end up with whatever crumbs I'm left with. So that's a different philosophy. But if you just start with your chart of accounts, you'll find things. I'll give you an example. Someone might look at the cost to Vertafore as a expense. So it's all under operating. All right. Is that true for PL Rater? No. Do you see that as an acquisition cost?
No.
Or do you see that as an operating cost? So just going through the process requires you to rethink. So now that VA cost for that person, but what's the role of that person? If that person is a client service representative or whatever it might be, and they're not earning commission, I could say maybe it's operating expense and payroll, right? Maybe we need to balance that, because that VA might not be listed as payroll. They might be listed as operating expense because you're viewing them as a vendor. However, if that person is being paid commission, now is part of that actually acquisition cost? Are they involved in organic growth?
I knew there was a reason I liked your geeky butt.
And it's simple because it's just 3 letters, OP or A. And it starts with your chart of accounts. So I'm not an accounting person, I'm a data-minded person, but I am also a revenue-minded person.
Fair enough.
Business people need to think more about everyone's expenses, not just their domain.
I agree.
You know, I would encourage every producer needs to think about that, because they're running their own business inside of a business, right? If I'm a producer on the street and I'm working every day of the week, and I may not even be logging into a management system, I mean, I don't have a lot of tools today, but if that's happening, I still need to be thinking, it's like I'm running my business, and if I'm getting paid, I'll make it up, 30%. That means I'm paying 70% to handle all the other stuff. That's a business that needs to be run as a business.
Man, dude, I got to hang out with you more. I don't get to see you enough. This is great. This is great. I am so looking forward. I swear to God, I think I'm going to send you my book, and I'm going to fly to New Jersey just to go through it with you. I'm telling you, it's something I have. And it's not a book, it's a tactical manual. It's 70 pages long. It allows people exactly how to do it.
Well, because you're sick, you know, and it takes other sick people to understand what that's like. You know, you have an illness, you're an insurance nerd.
I actually am. Keith, I greatly appreciate your friendship. Thank you very much for what you do in the industry, man. It's fantastic.
No,
really,
thanks for giving me the time to talk
and
about
loyal
this
listeners,
stuff.
you know you got a lot out of this, right? You've listened to the executive sessions. You've heard some ups and downs. You've heard some great stories. That right there was a clinic. I hope you listen to it again. Keith, appreciate it, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Yeah.